Hello everyone, welcome back to ptet.chemistry channel. So in this tutorial video, I'll be featuring work tutorials for work 1, which is for the combined science CSE, Combined Science Chemistry 5129. This is on separation technique. So I already had another work solution, which is the tutorial video on chromatography specifically. So I'll just be going through the other page 1 to page 2 of the work that have already been given out to you. So in the page 3 and page 4, they are the one that features on this element compound mixture, as well as ideas on chromatography. You can find out in that part 1 of 2 videos, in particular on this work 1. So this video is going to be fairly short, but I want to particularly focus on like how in the world are we going to break down this MCQ so that they become something that makes sense to you and not something that you just randomly pick an answer out of, which is what a lot of combined science students would do. They think that they read the question once and they think they would get it, but in fact in reality they did not, and that's probably why a lot of them struggle with the application of the concept. Okay, so let me show you how to do it, and hopefully by going through how to do it, and this way it can train you to think for yourself in the real thing. And there's the whole idea of this think aloud tutorial. Okay, it's not just to give you the answer, but to provide you a platform for thinking about the situation and what would you do the next time you're faced with multiple choice question. So do not leave it empty. Instead, start reading through the question and underlining, circling, or writing down stuff that would make more sense to you when you revise later on. Okay, so if you take the easy route now, then you might struggle in a couple of months time or in a few years time when it might be too late for revision after that. Okay, so which method of separation? So these are all things you will have done. These are things from the syllabus. You want to separate a soluble solid from its solution. Soluble solid mean can dissolve, or it dissolve. In fact, soluble solid in this context mean it dissolve in the solution. So if this thing dissolve in the solution, your solution is clear. It does not have any solid. Okay, so solution has no insoluble solid. If you do not have any insoluble solid, you can cross out filtration straight away, because filtration is to obtain insoluble solid from a solution that has an insoluble solid. Okay. What else? Condensation is definitely not going to work because this is on different boiling point. Is part of distillation, and you got to have different boiling point, and it's not going to be suitable for any of these two different methods. So we're just left with crystallization and chromatography. So if we have a solid that we want to it's soluble in the solution, but as you take away the solution and you make it saturated, set a saturated solution to crystallize. And by the way, these are in your textbooks as well as these are in the notes provided for you already, so you can just go through the lecture tutorial and your own notes, and saturated is defined in there for you. So crystallization is the best way to go and not chromatography, because here chromatography is not going to be suitable because if of course it's soluble in the solution, so it will move up the chromatogram, but you're not going to get the solid out of the solution because the solid is still stuck on the chromatogram. So crystallization is going to produce the crystals as a solid from a solution, which you can filter, and then you can just wash with cold distilled water, and you can dry it in between filter paper. That's how you can get the pure solid, which was soluble in the solution, out as solid. Number 2, this is quite a straightforward one. You want to get drinking water from seawater. This is very common if you're stranded alone on an island and you're surrounded by sea and you want to get a bit of drinking water. So drinking seawater is not good for you. So to get a drinking water, you will boil the seawater, and then you will get a leaf where the vapor will condense down, and that will give you the drinking water. There's actually distillation, which involve 2 steps, and this is stated in the syllabus very clearly. First of all, you need to evaporate, which is with heat, or I prefer the term boiling, because you need the source of heat to vaporize, to boil, to turn the liquid into gas. Okay, and then you will have a side arm with a condenser job. All it does is condense gas into liquid. Boiling is liquid into gas. So 2 different changes of states. States of matter was your first topic. Changes of state was stated in the first topic as part of your syllabus. Number 3 is all about apparatus setup. So we know that this is apparatus setup for filtration. We know that the third experiment here, this is a setup for crystallization, because you need to heat the solution until it is saturated. Okay, heat solution until it is saturated. And again, as above, I said that these are already covered in the notes in the lecture tutorial, so you really have to be more independent and actually recap and review and read more of the notes and the textbook before you think you're ready for an actual question. Okay, and what is this? This one has a cork bung, a rubber cork bung. This is a rubber, well, I assume it is rubber, but it's a stopper essentially. Okay, so it's a stopper. It stops the flask, whatever is in the flask, from escaping. So you want to obtain separate. Sand and salt from a mixture of sand and salt solution. Solutions is going to be in water. Sand is insoluble in water. Obviously, you know sand is insoluble in water, and you know salt is soluble in water. So if we do filtration, this is insoluble in water, then you can collect as residue. Definition of residue is again expected of you in the syllabus. The same thing with this one. Filtrate is the liquid that pass through the filter. Okay, but you want to obtain separate sample of sand and salt. You do not want salt solution. Okay, so this is going to be a salt solution, because the salt is soluble in water. It will pass through as a salt dissolved in water. But what you want is, you want sand and salt. You do not want salt solution, you want salt. So you need to do further purification in order to get the salt. That means you can do crystallization, just like in question 1. The soluble solid, the solid is soluble in the solvent. So what you can do is, you can get salt crystals. Well, maybe I can write them better to put on the same page. You can get salt crystals. The crystals are going to be solid, plus the remaining water as the solvent, and then this is a solid. Then you can filter them off again. Crystallization, forming crystal. Filtration separates insoluble solid from soluble solid. So we need filtration, we need crystallization, therefore the answer must be 1 and 3. Question 4, you have apparatus in the lab again. So you want to produce and collect pure water from seawater. Okay, produce and prepare pure water from seawater. This is distillation. So in order to do distillation, we need a distillation apparatus. We need to have a stopper. In fact, it's best if you have a thermometer. There, because the thermometer can tell you the boiling point of the stuff that you're collecting on the sidearm via the condenser. So this condenser is stuck to this, so that this thing evaporates or it boils as a gas, and then the gas condenses in the condenser, because the water goes in at the bottom, the water goes out from the top. Okay, this is a common mistake that students make. Water in at the bottom, water out at the top is correct. this is a two-dimensional diagram for a three-dimensional setup. So the vapor pass through the middle. This is a layer on the outside, like a jacket of water that cool down the vapor, and you will collect the vapor inside an open flask such as this, and it will come out as a liquid because of the gas turning into the liquid. Is called condensation. Okay, the previous bit was liquid turning into gas, that is called boiling, or you can also call it evaporation in the context of combined science 5129 syllabus. All right, so distillation apparatus, you need 1, 4 and 5, which is option B. Question 5 is the last question in this particular MCQ work. On top of, in addition to the chromatography work and the element compound and mixture work, which has been given up previously. So this is magnesium hydroxide. All this seems very unfamiliar to you, but if you know how to read the question, then you see this is solution, so meaning it is soluble. The calcium hydroxide is soluble because it's a solution. Okay, this is a seawater that has these ions. So again, this is a seawater, is soluble. Aqueous again means soluble. Okay, soluble in water. This is solid. Solid means insoluble. Solid. Okay, so you want to get the solid from something which is soluble, soluble and soluble. This is very straightforward, a filtration, because this is the only thing that is insoluble, and you want this thing which is insoluble from the mixture which has soluble calcium hydroxide, soluble magnesium ions, soluble calcium chloride. So this is a soluble stuff, soluble solution, and you want the insoluble stuff. This is very clearly filtration. So separation technique is not too bad, and you have a new paper 3 that your brother, your sister, your parents would not have taken when they were doing combined science many years ago. Your paper 3 is about experimental techniques, and a lot of these separation techniques could and probably will be asked in your paper 3, which is on experimental knowledge. Okay, thinking about experiments. However, it's not guaranteed, meaning to say they can also appear in multiple choice, such as these 5 questions, among many other questions. Of course, they can also appear in theory level structured question as well. Could be fill in the blank, could be draw up a list like what is filtration used for, and then they will ask you to connect the dots. Could also be explanation in terms of what you have done for chromatography in the other work. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial video. If you got any questions, you can always ask me in school. You don't have to wait until the next class, which you don't see me very often. So you can also get in touch with me and ask any questions you want. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.